what made you decide that this was the path you follow? Because I know that you have lots and lots of passions in addition.
Uh, yes. Well, I'll tell you, I mentioned Equinox earlier. When Equinox first opened, I had a background for unrelated reasons in fitness that was very strong. I had studied the type of fitness you would do in a gym, as opposed to sports, for reasons we don't have to get into. I
Right.
moved to Paris after college, and while there, I spent a lot of time working in gyms, working out in gyms. And so when I came to Equinox, I was a trainer, and I knew about cardiovascular training, running or cardiovascular classes like that, where you get your heart rate up. I knew about strength training, where you overload the muscle, where you work very hard and have more. I knew about flexibility training. In fact, I wrote the protocols for flexibility for Equinox. But then I've heard that there was a method, Feldenkrais method, where where people were having all kinds of abilities that were unreal. Equinox asked me to develop a training program for their trainers. I knew I couldn't send them to college for 4 years. So I went to see what Feldenkrais method was like, because I knew people there were very well trained, and I knew that as an expert in fitness, I would simply be able to see what they did and break it down and teach it to trainers. That was a big joke. I went to take the Feldenkrais class for that reason. I was looking to see what the template was for an educational program. But I went and took the class. It was in a tiny room at the end of a hallway, and a fellow sat in a chair and opened up a book and started reading. I said, this is terrible. But we started moving, and none of the things that we normally do in fitness, like getting the heart rate up, or working hard against resistance, or even stretching, we didn't do any of those things. We did a series of slow, controlled movements with awareness. I was paying attention. And I found that after doing a bunch of things on my side, I got onto my back and I had been transformed. Half of myself was completely different from the other half. I was completely mobilized and agile and open. And I thought, how in the world did this happen? Then I looked and I noticed that the fellow who was leading the lesson, he was reading it out of a book. So it wasn't something specific to me. It was species wide, that if we do those things, this would be the effect. So I was mesmerized. I asked him, how do you do this? It turned out it was a 4-year program, but I decided I would go for it. That was going to be, to me, it was obvious that it was the future of fitness, that there's a huge population of people for whom Zumba classes does not work, for whom Zumba classes do not work, or for doing kickboxing or even weightlifting is not interesting, and this is interesting. So I went back to school and ended up studying, and then I ended up spending 3 years studying with Michelle Feldenkrais' first student. She's still around. She's actually still around now. She was his first apprentice, and then I brought it to Equinox, and I brought it to a bunch of other places now, and now I'm doing my own thing. So it's fun. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. Do you recommend this now in our time specifically for de-stressing and for trauma? Do you think it would help people to relax? I know it certainly works for me that way.
Yes, I absolutely 100% recommend it in this time for people to relax and more. So Joyce, as you know, when you're in a lesson with me, I deliberately hijack your mind
Yep.
and I take you on a journey inside yourself where you find more and more of you that you can access so that you can move with grace and ease. I think in this time where we have so much stress, where the weight of the world is on our shoulders and we're so confused, to be able to go deep inside ourselves and find clarity, to go deep inside ourselves and over and over and over again, get to something that we don't know, and then we have the internal resources so that we can then transcend that. We don't know how to go further. It seems like I'm stuck, and then you come unstuck. I don't know, and now I know. And the only thing that changed it, it's not that I gave you a pill or an injection or I gave you an operation. None of that happened. I just brought your awareness to an aspect of you that you then synthesized into your sense of what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, you're different. And during the course of an hour lesson, that happens over and over and over and over again. And it's, to me, perfect for these times. Absolutely perfect for these times.
I think so too, because I know that many times I could enter a lesson and I could feel pain. But when I exit the lesson, that pain is gone. So it seems to me that with all of the stresses that people are feeling and all of the opioids that people are taking to numb themselves, that this is a far better way to go. It's an hour of your time where you're in touch with yourself and you are really able to come away without pain and to feel fluid and light.
I laugh because it is really quite extraordinary that that we mostly in this culture take an alternate path, and we feel like we need to take pills or we need to, I don't know, drink a bottle of scotch or whatever it is that we do to mask the pain and or mask discomfort. And the reality is we can transcend it by learning how to access more of ourselves so that we can move freely. It really is our birthright as a species to be able to move with freedom and grace. Humans are designed to do that. Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, was a good friend of Michelle Feldenkrais. And she, when looking at the work, said, you know, as a species, we subject ourselves to an unnecessarily infirm old age. That's what we do. And we don't need to. The answer to how to stay mobile and agile is Feldenkrais method. If you do Feldenkrais method, that just doesn't happen to you. Or if it's already happening to you, you can reverse that process. So you can be like my friend Barbara, and in her late 80s, after a 15-year hiatus, give a glorious concert where there was absolutely no restriction in her movement at all. And also an elevation of her artistry, that she could be so free and open in herself that she could just play in a way that was gorgeous. Stunning stuff. Mm-hmm.
I think it is too. Self-awareness, which I think you don't really realize when you're in a constant running mode. But now we have the time because we're in this self-isolation that none of us has control over. It's we're living on virus time. It's a perfect way to explore who you are and what makes you tick, and can it be better?
Absolutely.